Over the past 2 weeks, I went on a trip across Australia and saw a lot of dangerous animals. But I noticed one thing. I didn't see any large carnivores during my trip. I mean, there are no wolves or tigers or lions or bears in Australia. The herbivores there are also pretty small. There are no elephants, rhinos, hippos, or buffaloes in Australia. So, where exactly is the Australian megafauna? To find the answer, we had to dig a little deeper, literally, because Australia did have a lot of megafauna, but they are all extinct right now. So here's a story of who exactly are these Australian megafauna and how exactly they went extinct. So right now we are heading towards a place which is filled with Australian megafauna fossils. Welcome to Wellington Caves here in New South Wales, Australia. These caves have acted like natural traps for thousands of years. Animals fell through hidden openings or wandered into the cave and couldn't escape. Layer upon layer of sediment buried their bones, preserving them. There's literally so much fossils in this cave such that in some sections the fossils have compacted and cemented to become a fine-grained mineral matrix called bone breccia. There's entire underground chambers that are built out of this stuff. Another fun fact is that one of the largest stalagmites anywhere in the world is also found here. In 1838, a guy named Thomas Mitchell came here to work on these fossils. He was amazed by the fossils that he could find, like giant kangaroos, giant reptiles, and among them, fragments of the jawbone of a huge animal.
But when we first started to find the bones, we did not find a complete skeleton. And the scientists, when they initially found part of the skull, because of what we now know to be the nasal cavities, they actually thought it was going to be an elephant or a mammoth.
Yeah.
And then we found teeth, but they weren't connected to the jaw. So scientists initially, like us, make mistakes. They found this tooth and they thought, oh, maybe it's going to be a carnivore. More and more findings, finding it together with the jaw and the teeth, we learned the size of the teeth just four.
So while it was initially thought that the teeth was a canine, it became apparent very quickly that the teeth is in a horizontal position. Here you can see that the wallaby also has two forward pointing teeth on the lower jaw. You'll also get a sense as to how exactly big the animal we just discovered was. A British naturalist named Richard Owen came to this exact conclusion. If you don't know who he is also the first person to coin the term dinosaurs. He realized that the animal is a giant marsupial and not an elephant, and he gave it the name Diprotodon, meaning two forward teeth.
So the Diprotodon
Yeah.
was a marsupial,
Yeah.
similar to today's wombats, but the size of a rhino, almost 2 ton.
Compared to an actual human, it would have looked like this: 1.8 meter tall and almost 4 meters long. But don't worry, the animal is a herbivore. And we know that because of these giant molars that are designed to crush leaves and plants on the back of the jaw. But what is the front teeth of the jaw used for?
Yes, so a lot of the time they're almost like a motor bringing it in.
Okay.
Also used a lot for grooming.
Okay.
And they aren't a very aggressive animal, but they could also use it in fight defense.
So you might have a question, how exactly do we know all of these things from their fossils alone? A significant part of Diprotodon fossils is carbon, and Diprotodon got that carbon from plants, and plants got that carbon from the air when they are sucking up carbon for photosynthesis. There's two chemical pathways in which a plant can gather CO2 for photosynthesis. The first is the C4 chemical pathway. This is the pathway that most of the grasses and related families use. The next is the C3 pathway. Most bigger trees and giant plants and shrubs use the C3 pathway to gather carbon. The thing is, there are two isotopes of carbon in the atmosphere. There's the C12 isotope and the C13 isotope. The two pathways discriminate the C12 isotope over the C13 isotope, but the amount by which they discriminate is different. The C4 pathway favors a lot more C13 isotope from the atmosphere compared to the C3 pathway. So, by looking at the ratio of the C12 to C13 in the bones, you can take a guess if the animal ate a lot more grasses or a lot more bigger trees and bigger shrubs. You can do this analysis for Diprotodon and you will find the answer that the diet of the Diprotodon varies from fossils collected from each part of the country. It means that Diprotodon was a highly adaptable creature and could adapt to a wide variety of diet. Now, apart from these herbivores, let's take a look at the carnivores there at that time. Meet the Thylacoleo, also known as the marsupial lion. It is the biggest marsupial carnivore known till date, and it weighed more than 160 kilograms.
Or in Australia, we think the original drop bear.
Scientists have scanned the skeletons of these Thylacoleos, and then using computer modeling, you can calculate how the jaw moved. There's a huge space for the masseter muscles to attach in its jawbone. The masseter muscles are the muscles which help us to close our jaws. So we can biomechanically model these muscles, and the results are astounding. The Thylacoleo had one of the greatest bite forces relative to its body size that we have known for any animal.
The bite force is incredible.
Okay.
And we have found bones in the cave with the indentations of the teeth marks indicating being attacked by one of these animals. Not a herbivore, a carnivore. And if you do get a close look, no molar tooth for chewing and digesting the food, but the premolars very much like a blade.
A shocking fact is that both the Diprotodon and Thylacoleo evolved from wombats. Wombats, koalas, along with Diprotodon and Thylacoleo, all of them belong to the same family, Wombatiformes. The ecological niche of a large carnivore that was empty in Australia. So some wombats evolved to become carnivores to fill that ecological niche and become combat wombats. Humans arrived on Australia about 45,000 years ago. At that time, there were 24 species of animals in Australia which had a weight of more than 50 kilograms. Within a few thousand years of humans' arrival, 23 of these 24 animals became extinct. But we are not so sure if humans were the reason these animals became extinct. There's other hypothesis because at that time, the Australian climate was slowly warming up from the last ice age and the continent of Australia was slowly drifting upwards towards the equator. So this climate change may be what caused these animals to become extinct. In his famous book Sapiens, the author Yuval Noah Harari do place a lot of blame on humans. Now, humans may have been a contributing factor. For example, at that time, a lot of humans did fire stick farming, a method where we would burn large swaths of land to hunt animals and gather prey more effectively. Now, this may have been a huge contributing factor. And there's one more evidence for this hypothesis, and that's because 45,000 years ago, eucalyptus was a really rare tree in the Australian continent. But right now, that tree is ubiquitous anywhere in the country. Eucalyptus trees grow better during forest fires, and that's because the seeds of the eucalyptus are forest fire prone and need that fire to get the stimulus to germinate. There's a part of me that likes to believe that we humans wasn't the reason. Maybe instead we told stories about it. Children would have heard stories about the huge Diprotodon around the campfires. Hunters would have exchanged tales of the fearsome Thylacoleo. Millions of years ago, before there were fossils in a museum, they were part of someone's world, they were part of its own world. Thanks for watching.